All right. Well, welcome to all of you to Guerrilla Discipleship. I am Kevin Bake, and I brought a great person. You're going to love meeting Chris, my friend. So we're going to get right into it. I want to make sure that I'm following you right. So, junior year of high school is a transformational year for you spiritually. Of college.
Yeah.
Transformational year for you spiritually,
Yeah.
you personally. Your faith became personal and real. It wasn't just I'm going to church because my parents told me I should or whatever. Have I got that right?
Yeah, and there's a number of stories behind that. And again, I don't want to take too much time.
We've got all the time in the world. People want to hear about your story. So if you want to tell us that actual
the
sort of transformation story, please do.
I was back from Switzerland that senior year and trying to figure out what to do now that I'm back. I've had this amazing experience, and I feel a shift that I'm being called to. I guess now I would look at it as bring people out of darkness into light. And I had mentioned earlier I would break down the difference between fun and joy.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years of college were fun. They were a lot of fun. Drinking, partying, tailgating, cheering at the football games, doing all of that. But it was temporary and fleeting. There wasn't a lasting sense to it. It was like, all right, now that this party's over, what party's next? Or, whatever it might be. And I never really got too deep into it. I don't want to make it sound like I was doing anything too crazy, but my heart wasn't in the right place as far as I was just pursuing what brought me fun.
Right.
And then the idea of joy. So there was a Christian group on campus that they had started Young Life College. It was like one of the very first years that Young Life was trying to break onto the college scene. And I didn't have Young Life in high school or anything, but I knew about it. And a couple of the guys I met invited me to some of their events. And I was just really taken back by the level of joy that this group was having.
Wow.
That they were singing songs, they were joking, they were having an awesome time, more fun, more joy than the party animals trying to. And it was this desperate attempt at joy rather than this experiential just being. And I would remember I'd go to one of these events on a Friday night, and then I'd go to a fraternity party on a Saturday night, and I'd be like, all these people are pursuing the same thing, but it's just so different.
Right.
And so with that, I took it through senior year and then was like, all right, I'm going to try to bridge this gap from the guys that don't need the alcohol, don't need the drugs, don't need the girls, to the guys that are chasing nothing but that.
Yeah. And
try to bridge them in a way that is approachable and obvious but not obnoxious. That's one of your terms that I always use. And that was when the Peacemakers format started. It wasn't called Peacemakers then, but it was just a biblical-based conversation.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to get together. I always would provide food because nothing gets young guys to show up more than food or girls.
You cooking, yeah.
And we're not going to have the girls, so it's the food. And so we would have a meal, and then we would sit and have a conversation about a lot of things, but usually it would just be what they felt was relevant to them. So it might be at the time it was school and studying for exams or feeling morally hungover from this or that or not sure what they should do because they hate their major. So it was in the context of where they were at that time. And then as I moved on from college, it became work and stress with family dynamics and stuff of that nature. But I'm bouncing around here a bit, and if you would help me get back on track.
I'll get you back on track. It's actually all great, Chris. I appreciate that. So let me ask this question that I think probably everybody is going to want to know. Why Peacemakers? Where did that name come from?
Yeah, so those first few Bible studies we had with that group at Lone Oak, those young men, we started in the book of James. It's a very approachable book. It's not very long, so it's like, all right, guys, we can finish this one.
Right.
You're not going to have to force you through all the Psalms or something. And in James 3, it talks about blessed are the peacemakers who sow, and they will harvest a reward of righteousness. And that was where it started. And at that Bible study, we were joking, like, man, we need to make a group for our name for this group. And one of the guys was like, let's call ourselves Peacemakers. And everybody was kind of like, yeah, that sounds cool. So it was just from that. And there's only, from most translations that I've seen, only one or two places in the Bible where the word peacemakers is actually used. And it's in James 3 and Matthew 5, I think. And so that's where it came from.
That's awesome.
It was that original group used it as a little bit of an identifier, and once the group chat got named Peacemakers, it wasn't going back.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Chris and I have talked about over the years is that we've known each other is this idea of how do we multiply, how do we help people become disciples that make disciples? So in other words, so that it's not just all about Chris, here's the guru, but that he's somehow imparting the life of Christ into these men who are then imparting that life to others. And there's a lot to tell there, so let me gauge you a little bit in this. Before you talk about, because I know you guys have just developed an app. So before you get to the app, what were you doing? How were you seeing, or how were you encouraging multiplication?
Yeah.
I'm sort of setting you up because I know the answer to that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let me. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea. What just really blessed me was, so these guys are coming home from college. Many of them, not just high school, but college guys. But some of them are fraternity members, and so you started encouraging them when you get back to college.
Yep.
So would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the high schoolers that I was just mentioning in the original tense during 2020, the beginning of COVID, they graduated high school, and all of them went off to college. And one was at University of Maryland, one was at Stockton playing lacrosse, one was at JMU playing baseball, one was down at Mississippi State. And so all over the country, this really cool little knit group we had just dispersed. And they got to college, and I knew they were in for a situation.
Yeah.
And so I just encouraged them. I said, hey, when you get where you're going, why don't you try to start something with a group of guys like we have here? It's not going to be the same guys. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, but don't lose this really cool thing we've created wherever you go.
Yeah.
One was playing lacrosse at Stockton, so it's easy. You're on a team. You have a set group of guys that you're going to be around all the time. Why don't you try to introduce them to some sort of spiritually obvious conversations? It doesn't have to be a Bible study to start, but don't lose yourself in the process of going off to college and becoming a college athlete. And so that's what happened is slowly all of them in their own context started a Bible study where they were, whether it was with a sports team.
Was that about all the training you gave them?
I would provide them Bibles too.
Okay. So but you basically said, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So, hey guys, you've experienced something here.
Yeah.
Go create that experience where you're going to be at school.
Yeah.
Is that basically it?
Yeah, basically there's no rules.
Yeah.
You can be who you want to be where you are and do what you want to do, and that's a choice. And do you want to choose to just chase after things that don't really matter, or do you want to, with the context of the conversations that we've had this last year or so, when you end up where you're going, do something that actually matters? And in a roundabout way, all of them were encouraged to do that, and they did it.
Yeah.
And that was 4 years ago, so now all of that original group are through college and off in work.
Wow.
And one of them was playing professional baseball. A couple of them are still finishing up further degrees. So it's a really cool balance that we have of those guys. And one thing that we did to try to encourage it was and it's the same thing that my dad, Mr. K, did for me when I was in college, is I said, hey, if you have a group of anybody that wants a Bible, like all you have to do is ask. I'll get it ordered. I'll put their name on it. I'll ship it to your dorm or wherever you want it to go, but you'll get Bibles in their hands, and it'll make it a little bit easier to organize. And if anything, you got somebody a Bible, what's wrong with that?
So here's what I hear, Chris, in this. It's so beautiful. Is 2 Timothy 2:2 that Paul says to Timothy, these things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses. Find other reliable people that you can relate them to, who can then relay them to, that they can then relate on others. There's 4 generations there. You just said the things that Mr. K and your dad poured into you, encouraged in you, you then played out with others who are now playing out. There's 4 generations right there in what you just said. And I also want to just make sure that we don't miss this important point, that replication is almost a requirement for multiplication. Like, I've got to have something that I can reproduce. In the case of what you said to your guys, is what you've experienced with us here together, replicate that where you are. Well, they had already experienced it, and it was casual. It wasn't, you weren't wearing a robe, and it was, hey, I'm a guy like you, maybe a little bit older, I'm a guy like you. We've been getting around having spiritual conversations around life.
Yeah.
You can go do that with other people. So they had something to replicate. And once you have something, once you teach or you allow for replication, it can multiply out. Tell us a little bit about the app now that you have developed for Peacemakers.
Yeah. So to that point of replication and teaching, there's a really great technique that I did not invent, but I always appreciate.
Yeah.
It's the I do,
Yes.
we do, you do. And so once somebody has seen how I might lead one of these Peacemakers Bible studies, then I usually ask guys within the group for them to lead. And then eventually, if or when they move away or some circumstances change, then they're doing it on their own.
All right, so I got to pause on this, because part of what we do in guerrilla discipleship is constantly hit these principles that are so key to multiplying it out. And I can't celebrate that idea that I do, we do, you do enough. Lots of different ways to talk about that, but that principle, I don't know why the church misses that principle so often. And I'm, speaking as a pastor, one of the things that I think pastors, one of the big mistakes we make is we often come across as if you can't do what I do. Because I've been trained and I've got all this experience. And so there's this gap between, often that creates in churches, where it's like most people in the pew feel like I can't do that. I'm going to take Chris in another direction for just a second. I'm going to set the story up and let you finish it. So Chris is continuing. This is a couple of years ago. There's this Peacemakers that he's described going on. Summer comes and your numbers swell in the summer because you've got folks back from college and you've got high schoolers looking for work, and so the numbers of the Peacemakers during the year. How many people do you think? Like the school year, the numbers are maybe 20.
So, yeah, about. It started with 4 of us 4 years ago. Now it's currently during the school year. Well, it's changed a lot just recently, but in the last 2 to 3 years, it was about 20, 25 during the school year, and then it would swell up to about 35
in the summer.
Now we're consistently, even though school's back in session, we're hitting 35, 45 guys every week in person. And we had a group chat going that is about 260 guys now.
Look at that. So there's multiplication. And these are all young guys, high school, college, and some now out of college guys that are having spiritual conversations, that are having life-on-life conversations and getting into the Word. So I don't know how many years ago this was, Chris, but there was I think he was a lacrosse player, one of your guys. I'm going to tell my story the best I can here. Tell those stories, your story. One of the lacrosse players that was coming invited another couple of folks from the team. One of those guys was a guy whose country of origin was India. His family was from India. So not exposed to Christianity at all, but he wanted to come. And so what I want you to help us here is the story of what happened once he came, and who baptized him.
It was a joint effort, but I was the one that did the dunking. One of our guys brought a friend from high school. They had played sports together and knew each other growing up, and he was from Indian origins, and at least half Indian, and he was Americanized. It wasn't like he was just unfamiliar. He grew up here, went to school here, had friends here, but he was not plugged into a church. And so,
was his family going to church? They were not Christians,
to
right?
my knowledge, they were not Christians.
Yeah, okay.
And so they were good people. They just weren't Christian.
Sure.
And so he started coming very apprehensively at first. It was kind of like, what did my buddy just invite me into? To him becoming one of the key conversational components, asking great questions, becoming a part of the conversation. And somewhere along the way, about 2 months into him being a part of it, he professed during a Bible study, he was compelled at that moment. He said, I think I want to be baptized. And we were all like, whoa, that got real quick.
Right.
And so out of excitement, we said, all right, let's set this up. Let's do it. But baptism is a public declaration of faith, so you're going to have to go home and tell your family that may or may not support you. I don't know what it looks like, but we went down to a local river not far from here, and we got down in the water and we baptized him. It was
You
really cool.
baptized him.
I did, yeah.
Which, again, I want you to just see the multiplication and the replication. Now, for some of you, this is going to mess with your ecclesiology and your understanding of who can baptize. But my reading of Scripture is Jesus never says you have to be ordained or you have to have a seminary degree. It was disciples who were leading other people into a relationship with him, and he says baptize them.
Yeah.
And so I love that. And wouldn't it be great, and I don't know if other baptisms have happened, where some of your folks and peacemakers have said, hey, I'm baptizing so-and-so. Has that happened?
Yeah, so there's been a number of baptisms
That's awesome.
within our group. 3 of those original guys got baptized. We recently did one just a couple months ago.
Wow.
But
has anybody, have you done all the baptisms?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's awesome.
So one of the guys who came ended up inviting them baptizing one of the other guys that came down.
Wow.
Hey, thanks for watching Guerrilla Discipleship this week. We're so glad you tuned in for this part of the conversation. We can't wait to have you tune back in for the next part. As always, if you ever have any questions, you can email myself at tparker@oakdale.church or Kevin at kbaker@oakdale.church. We'd love to hear back from you. We'd love to have you share in the comments below, ask questions, click like, click subscribe. We're just so glad to be able to encourage you, and we can't wait to share more. God bless.